Hi, I'm Mara Webster with In Creative Company, and so thrilled to welcome today's guest, Jonathan Bennett, to talk all about his latest Hallmark movie, The Christmas House 2. And I actually wanted to start by talking about how you shaped and developed your character when you filmed the first movie for this, because you've worked on so many Hallmark movies, and there's always a very specific tone, particularly when it comes to holiday movies. It always leads back to this real feeling of warmth and optimism and hopefulness and connectedness. And so when you worked on the first movie, how did that really inform the way that you were able to shape your character and have an idea already of what you were stepping into?
Well, I think the most exciting part about all this is that in the first one, yes, I'm playing the character Brandon, but I'm pretty much just playing me, because for the first time there was an LGBTQ plus character. There was a gay character in a Hallmark holiday movie, and I got to play him. So, getting to just show up and bring, it was the first time I got to show up to a character and bring as much as my unique, authentic self as I've ever brought to a character, because I just got to pretty much be me with really expensive sweaters. And so that's what I did for the first one. And it was such an honor to get to play that character and get to make history on the Hallmark Channel with the first LGBTQ plus couple and the first gay kiss on screen. And it's really, I think when you step into the world that is Hallmark Channel, you automatically step into a set that has been created of like warmth and happiness and the holidays all in one. So I basically just got to step into this character, or step into this set as me, and hence Brandon was born.
I love that. And you're bringing up the environment when you step onto one of these sets. And a lot of the crew that worked on this film work on so many of these films with Hallmark throughout the year as well. And so how does that create the environment and what that collaborative community looks like on set for everybody, given that so many of the crew are working together and that you've had the opportunity to work with them before as well?
It's definitely a family feel at Hallmark Channel when you're shooting these movies. The crew and the actors have pretty much worked on numerous films together. And so when we come together, it's like summer camp, like the band, or it's like bringing back a boy band. Like the boy band is reunited. Like we're all back, we're ready to go. And so there's an ease that happens on set with these movies. And I think it was really special for The Christmas House 1 because of the groundbreaking kiss that happened between me, my character Brandon, and Jake, my husband in the movie. We got to have the first gay first gay kiss on Hallmark Channel in a Christmas movie, or just in any movie really. And there were so many people on set that were that were crew members and different parts of the production that were gay and have worked on hundreds of these movies. And for that moment, when they came up to me, like one of our art department, one of the guys that works in our art department, who I just adore, came up to me and said, I've decorated probably thousands of Christmas trees over the year for these movies. And for the first time, I feel like my story is being told as well, and I feel seen. So that was a really special moment. And that's just kind of the closeness we have with the cast and the crew and everyone that works on these. We act like a family.
And when it comes to working with Brad Harder, who you were mentioning, who plays Jake, your husband in the film, because of what you were talking about before, with how you really felt like you were just able to bring so much of yourself into the character, how did that in turn inform the way that the two of you were building the chemistry between your characters, building their history with each other, and building that rapport? Because you capture a lot of layers and textures within their relationship. It never feels like a monolith. It never feels one-dimensional. It feels incredibly rich in terms of the emotional tapestry between them.
I think that all has to do with the casting and the acting, but they cast Brad Harder, who literally the storyline for Christmas House 1 for our characters was a gay couple waiting to adopt their first child, and Brad had already adopted their first baby, and they were waiting on the adoption for baby number 2. And so literally life was imitating art for Brad in real life. And so to come on set every day and just have that kind of like genuine energy happening between the two of us, it really made for a great base layer to create the characters. And then I don't know if my real fiance in real life, James, and him were best friends and never told me, but the way that they both handle me is identical. Like, I'm a lot. I have a lot of energy. I'm a little bit of a spaz, and I'm a lot. I'm a force to be reckoned with, on and off set, in a good way. But Brad treated me the same way James treats me in real life. Like, we'd have a big scene coming up, and Brad would say, "Do you know all your lines?" I'm like, "Yeah, totally." He's like, "We're not shooting that one tomorrow. We're shooting the other one. They moved the scene." And I'd be like, "What? No, I didn't know this." And so then he'd be like, I go, "Oh my gosh, it's where I have all my lines. I have so many lines in that movie." He's like, "Okay, get your script. We're going to dinner. We'll sit. We're going to run them until you know every single line." And I'm like, "Okay." So like, and then he would text James. He's like, "Don't worry, I got him." Like, so the two of them did such a great job, like doing the real life husbanding on and off set.
And you were bringing up the storyline from the first one about the adoption process, and in the second one, your character is going through some ideas about self-validation and his relationship with his brother, the projection of how other people have seen him his entire life. And so these films don't shy away from having those conversations and those dialogues within them, and touching on deeper themes. And yet it still, again, comes back to that tonality where it comes from a place of like warmth, and it's a holiday movie and there's romanticism to it. Did you find that an easy balance to strike in how to capture that within that tone of the movie, and within a space where there's still humor coming within these conversations as well? Or was it a little bit of a dance to find what that looked like tonally in your performance when you did the first movie?
That's a layered question. Okay. So the tone of the second movie, well, I think Hallmark Channel does heart and warmth and does real stories better than any other network out there. I think they are the absolute benchmark of where you go to see stories about love, stories about family, and stories about friendship. And because they're so good at what they do, when they start adding these layers of humor on top of it, it's already grounded in that Hallmark love. So everything else now has the ability to play and dance around, because it's the storyline itself. Hallmark does such a great job of anchoring the storylines, and the storylines are so grounded and so real that we are able to add all the humor because it's backed by heart, right? You can't have heart without humor, and you can't have humor without heart. That's the rule of thumb when you're making these movies. And I think because they grounded my storyline so much with the real life storyline that happens for a gay couple, the gay couple, a lot of times, even my fiance and I, we feel like we have to be perfect, and we have to succeed and, go above and beyond, because the second that we're not perfect, you can get the looks from people. And that's one of the storylines in the movie. And I think it's so important because it's a real storyline. And with that grounding of it, you're able to then add the funny, because when you add the funny on top of it, it makes it easy for everyone to digest. Because if you have these fun, wacky scenes, you can then have these scenes that have a real purpose to them, and sharing that with the audience.
Yeah. And with Brandon's relationship with his brother, a lot of
it's my favorite relationship in the whole movie.
The best. And so many of those conversations happen with his brother in this movie. And then there's also the comedic side of their relationship as well, where they both completely regress to who they were as kids when they're really trying to one up each other, and they know how to push each other's buttons. And did you find that in working together with Robert Buckley on those scenes in this movie, that you'd really kind of done all the work in the first movie of what that history, what that backstory looked like, or were there other elements and layers and parts of that you discovered in working on the second one?
I think there are very few times in an actor's career where you meet another actor on set that you're going to play siblings with, and you have the connection that Robert and I did. It is such an honor and a privilege to get to play his brother. And I say that because of how much I respect him as a human and how much I respect him as an actor. When we get on set, the first one, the chemistry was already there. But because we've remained friends and all have this group chat, we all talk in and we've all stayed close. When we arrived on set for the second one, there was a connection and a love and a support that had been nurtured for over a year. So when you have that support with each other, you can take the gloves off and come out fighting and go for the comedy. And that's when it gets really fun, because in the first one, you're all kind of, you have a good connection, but you're like feeling each other out. The second one, you're like, oh, we're all friends. I'm going to go for the joke on and off set every single time. And I know I'm in a safe place to do it. And when you do that and you go to that and you're in that safe place, that's where the brilliance in the comedy lies. Like all the ad libs that are in the movie, like there are probably 100 ad libs in this movie. And we wouldn't have the confidence to say these ad libs and go for the joke if we all didn't love and respect and have this real harmonious, just family feel with each other. And so that's where I think the comedy lies. And I love with Robert, we try to screw with each other on and off set all the time. And this movie, the sequel was even 10 times more than the first one, because he knew I was supposed, like, here's an example. He knew I was supposed to be getting ready for a movie after this where I had to be shirtless. And so I get to set and I'm like, hey guys, don't let me eat junk food because I really want to get on my diet, my fitness. He's like, yeah, bro, no problem. I got you. The next day I show up and there are chocolate croissants from the best bakery in the world sitting on my cast chair. And I'm like, why are they, with my name on them? And I'm like, why are there croissants here? And why do they have my name on them? And of course I eat them because I can't not, because they're amazing and they're on my chair and I know I'm not supposed to, but I'm like, I got to eat these. Later on in the day, I'm like, where did those come from? He goes, oh, it's almost like somebody knew you had to get ready for a movie and would want to try to secretly sabotage your diet. And I looked at him, I go, you are evil. And that weekend, I knew he was watching football. So I sent like boxes of donuts to his room without telling him, and to sabotage him. And literally the same half hour that I ordered those donuts, he had already ordered me donuts to my room. So our donuts crossed and we both got them at the same time. And I'm like, did you know I was ordering? He's like, no, did you know I was? I go, no. So it's literally the life imitating the art with the brothers. And that's, I think, what makes it so special. But Robert is absolutely, the chemistry we have is just so safe and so beautiful and so good. And I think it really comes across in the movie, especially in the scenes where Robert and I are talking about something that I experienced with my family. Like, I'm the gay son, if you will. And so there's more pressure on people in the LGBTQ plus community to be perfect. And I say that, we have that conversation with I have that conversation with Robert in the movie about what that's like. Like, he's the handsome straight brother. So life's just so easy for him. And he's like, no, you don't and his character says, you don't understand. You live unapologetically yourself. And that's the biggest, that's the most courageous thing you can do. And so it's a really true, real storyline with a lot of humor layered on top of it.
Yeah. And I love the way that you're describing how much comedy can come from that place of having a real safeness with the people that you're working with, and working with the cast overall on this movie. I was interested in what that looked like when you would be playing around and creating those ad libs, because there's a lot of comedy that the script gives you in these movies. There's the ad libs that you were talking about. There's also moments like, the two of them running through the store with their shopping carts, and that's really about the physicality of what you find in that scene in the moment. And so how do you tend to approach scenes in a way where you're making sure that you get what's on the page, but that you also have that playfulness to see what other elements you can add?
I think we just go for it every single time. And then we have to get reined in, because when Robert and I are together on set, like, it's a director's dream and worst nightmare, because we're just always trying to go for the joke. But at the same time, Robert and I have been around for a long time working in the industry, and he's such a pro. And so we know when it's time, like we'll look at what we have to shoot that day. We know when it's time to play and when it's, oh crap, we got to get this done because we're running out of daylight and we still have 3 more scenes to shoot and we got to go quick. So like we just know when to play and when to just get what's on the page. And when we know we can play, we go for it.
And part of the thread with your character as well is him going through a journey of just trying to like move forward with everything. And there's kind of a real quickness in pacing and delivery in your performance, you know, until he reaches that point where he realizes that he needs to just step back and kind of live in the moment a little bit more. Was there a conscientiousness on your part about what the pacing and rhythm of scenes was going to be within your performance? Or was that a natural byproduct of the way that the scripts were
It's
written?
just, I think, again, it's just casting. Like, it's just me being me. I have a lot of energy and I talk quick. And there was a scene. Did you see the coffee scene where I'm like chugging coffee and I'm like talking like a mile a minute? There's a coffee scene where it was supposed to be, I come downstairs and Jake's making coffee and I go up and drink it. And I realize, well, if I've been up all night decorating, I don't think I've ever gone to sleep. Like Brandon is that crazy that he would stay up all night and just chug coffee. So I asked the director, Rich, I said, Rich, can Jake come down the stairs and I be just chugging coffee, like still awake? And he said, yeah, let's go for it. And it worked. And I think the scene is so, so funny because it just shows what a nut Brandon can be, because he's just like guzzling coffee through the night, decorating the house so he can beat his brother at Christmas decorating. Like, it's so insane, but also so funny and something that could happen.
You know, and going off the back of everything that you were saying before about that idea of perfection that he's really trying to create for all these reasons, you know, there's also just a lot of precision in different ways, and even down to the fact that he runs a bakery, you have to have so much patience, but also be very specific with it. And so, was that also another facet that really rounds out his personality for you in certain ways?
He's a perfectionist for sure, but I think what what's more important than him getting everything right is him beating Mike. So it's not so much that everything has to be perfect. It's just that Mike can't be better than him. And so many siblings have this rivalry. And I think it's such a natural thing in families. And what I love that Hallmark Channel did was they showed the Mitchell family as a real life modern family in 2021. This is what a family looks like in the age we live in. The age we live in moves fast. There's Instagram, there's, you know, social media, there's all these elements, and you're just trying to get through Christmas and make it perfect for your family. And what you realize is that the perfect Christmas doesn't exist. And no matter how much you're trying to make it perfect, it's never going to be perfect. But what makes it quirky and all the quirks of the family and all the things that go wrong is what makes Christmas beautiful, because it's real. And I think when people see the Mitchell family going through all this, they identify with their own Christmases and they're like, yeah, our Christmas is like that. And I think that's why the Mitchell family is, you know, one of the new favorite families of the Hallmark Channel. Like, people absolutely identify with this quirky modern day family.
And it's so real in the tensions across the board within the family that exist and bubble up at that particular time of year, because the stress is heightened. You know, throw in a Christmas house competition and it's skyrocketing. Is it always easy to find how far you can push what those tensions are going to be amongst family members before it needs to kind of come back to that place of unconditional love?
I think, yeah, you know, the Mitchell family leads with unconditional love. And I think in real life, people have places they know they can go and places they know they can't go for the holidays. You know, like there's, you know, I always joke, like, don't come out on a holiday because if you want to tell your whole family, everyone's gathered and they have the expectations of what the holiday is going to be. And then you come home, you're like, oh, I'm gay. Like, that is also a very sticky and interesting time when everyone's tensions are already so high that something like this that might be hard for some family members to digest and process isn't the best time to do that. You know what I mean? So we're already like, I remember my mom getting so mad at me because we were throwing a Christmas party And I took all the cups that she had set out for the party and put them all over the house. And she walked in and was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Well," I was like little. I was like, "If people need a cup, now they're everywhere, so they can just pick them up and get one instead of having to walk over to the table to get the cups." So I thought I was helping. She lost it. Pretty sure she had a dish rag on her shoulder and went swack across my butt when that happened because she was so angry. And yeah, that's an example of like the smallest thing can set people off.
And separately, I actually also quickly wanted to ask about some of your work in television as a host on, something like Cake Wars, because I think it's such a different style of performance and craft that you're leaning into. And I love the fact that you created a real space for contestants and really kind of used humor to alleviate some of the tension. And was that something that when you first took on that project, that you went in with a sense of how you wanted to walk into that space, how you wanted to create that space, for an environment for the contestants, or did you really find it once you were there filming the show?
I walked into reality television a completely different person than I walked out of it. When I started, I had done Dancing with the Stars, and I knew what it was like to be a contestant, and I knew how nervous you can be and how real the emotions are. When I did Celebrity Big Brother, I was watching past seasons of Big Brother and seeing everyone cry in the confessionals. And I'm like, okay, that's lame. Why would anyone cry in a confessional? That's like so for TV and so dumb. Cut to, I'm in the confessional bawling my eyes out because it's real. The emotions are real, but you don't know it until you're in it. And when you're in these high stakes reality shows, the emotions are real and they're so genuine and so true. And yes, it's a silly thing. Like 20 people locked in a house. Who's going to get out? Like, it just seems so like that. No one's going to be emotional about that, but you are, because it ends up being your entire world. And when these baking contestants were on the show, I started being like, oh, this is just, silly and fun. And like, they're all fine. But then you start having to be the one to tell people they're going home. And you're like, I'm sorry, but you're done in this cake war. And you then see them after and how crushed they are and how sad they are. It changes your opinion from like wanting to get good television out of people to, oh my gosh, are you okay? I want to make sure you're okay. And so the heart I have for all television, for anyone that's on a reality show, anyone that goes on a competition show to compete for anything, my hat is off to you, because 99.99% of the world will barely go for their dreams, will barely try to compete against other people to win because they're afraid. And on top of that, no one will do it on national television. And so there's a lot of like flack that reality shows get. And I'm like, don't knock it till you tried it.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all about that and all about Christmas House 2, and happy holidays, Jonathan. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.